Good morning. I'd like to welcome everyone to the Stress Unit Appeals Board meeting. Seeing a quorum of our members, I'd like to call the meeting to order. And this meeting and its required notices, I'd like to recognize compliance with the open door law. I'd like to take a moment to welcome Senator Ford, who has recently been appointed as one of our advisory board members. So welcome, and look forward to working with you.
Likewise.
The first item on our agenda is the approval of the July 11th, 2019 meeting minutes. Are there any comments, revisions needed? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The meeting minutes are adopted. Next, we'll have an update from our emergency manager, Dr. Marie.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you. It's great to be here this morning. We have a lot of information to share today with you. We have a lot of our folks with us today that will be, we're going to provide you a lot of information. Let me begin by a quick update. First, at your place, you have a Gary t-shirt, a little bit different than this one. That's one of our Gary shirts that we had last month. The one I'm wearing today is the one that we wore at a little bit different Gary Teachers Rock t-shirt. So not exactly, it's a little bit different, but still trying to create some excitement in the city, and we're doing so. Several updates for you today. If I may back up for a moment, also at your place you have a copy of the Gary Crusader. And if you'll turn to pages 8 and 9, it starts on the front page with some changes in the school year, and then you'll find a copy of some pictures from our opening day celebration, as well as one of our advertisements as part of our recruiting campaign, which I will tell you with Chelsea and Crystal and Ms. Walsh here today, you're going to hear a lot about that. We've been very active, very aggressive in trying to get the word out on the Gary schools and creating, asking folks to take another look. And if I may just continue, then I'll piggyback on that and talk about some of the changes that have happened in the schools. For the past 6 or 8 months or so, I've come to you and we've talked about some community information, things that we were looking at, some options and some changes that we would like to implement. Well, with the start of school, those changes are in place. And let me begin by highlighting and outlining a lot of those. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. One of the first things we learned last year was we needed to make some changes at our middle school. We had Gary Middle School that was facing some crowding situations. The board was informed of that. Some of the input from the parents and community was splitting the middle schools, which we did. So we've taken the former Gary Middle School, which is now still Gary Middle School, but it's Gary Middle School for the Performing Arts. The second location then on the south side of town was the old Bailey Elementary, which is a middle school for STEM. The students from Bailey were transferred over to Glen Park Academy, which was at about 38% capacity. So it allowed us to use that building more efficiently, reduce the crowding situation at Gary Middle, serve the south end of our community. Those children were riding the bus sometimes an hour or more a day just to get from the south to the north, because Gary Middle School is all the way on the north side in Miller. So the response has been tremendous. Parents are happy, kids are happy. The building itself has taken on a transformation. We've painted in and out. We've done a lot of just deep painting. We've done sidewalk repairs. We want to make our building as inviting as we can. And that focus not just at Bailey, but at all the buildings. It's something we really worked hard on this summer, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So we've got Gary Middle School on the north end, visual performing arts, band, orchestra, choir, dance, and so forth. STEM on the south end at Bailey, which is a partnership with IU Northwest there. They've got a STEM program. So between there, they've got some student teachers, the kids that are in the teaching program. They're going to come in and work with our kids after school. They're going to do some robotics and so forth. So we're very pleased about that. Another big change that we had this year was at McCullough School. Not only is McCullough now a co-ed facility, we also have preschool there. So that was another, we took a chance and we added 4 classrooms at McCullough. And I can say this morning that the parents and the community responded. We got a great population of preschoolers at McCullough and a great population of preschoolers at Bethune, which is still open. And they're still coming, they're still lining up. So as attendance ebbs and flows, we'll be able to add kids along the way. So we're very, very pleased about that. McCullough, McCullough, the young men, it was pretty exciting to see them come in the first day. A couple of girls said, my mom said that the boys have foodies. And, it was pretty cute. But they came in and they were proud. Many fathers, grandfathers, we had the clergy association that came in to greet them. It was just a great morning. It was a great morning. And kids are kids. Lunch goes on, recess goes on, and learning goes on. So they're having a great time there. Career Center, West Side. I also mentioned to you last year that we had some scheduling conflicts issues that were not allowing our students to really efficiently attend both Career Center and the high school. We've taken care of that as well. We have a 2-semester system at the high school now that matches the 2-semester system at the Career Center, and interest is increasing, and we're very happy with that. We're looking at opportunities for kids. We have a new Career Center director, Valencia Smith, who's meeting with the kids saying, what programs do you want? How can we meet your needs, which is what it's all about. Along that line with numbers increasing, just to go out there and say, we are still enrolling students every day. I don't have numbers to report to you today because they're changing. They're changing, all the time. We will come back to you with solid numbers a little bit down the road. We've got roughly another month even before comp day starts, so we've got a long way to go there. But the excitement behind the whole enrollment process has been great. We've spent, and the ladies here, Chelsea and Ms. Foster and Crystal, will elaborate on that later as part of their information. But the hard work that they've done to get the community behind us is phenomenal. I got to brag on Ms. Foster here for a moment. She's our face liaison, our parent liaison. She's our point person. She is a Gary Community School System mobile unit, if you will. In her SUV, she carries laptop, scanner, copier, enrollment packets. I've seen her alongside the road, taking a meeting with a parent, getting information, and pulling into a parking lot. If there's an interest, she grabs them. Sets up at grocery stores, churches. We've been to picnics together. I mean, you name it, we've been there. So I can't wait for you to hear from her, but we're really proud of her and the work that they've all done. So we'll be getting to that in a minute. I mentioned earlier some facility work that's taken place. Got pulled my little cheat sheet here. We've really worked hard this year to improve the appearance of our buildings. Simple things as grass cutting on a regular basis, tree trimming, hedge trimming to make the buildings more inviting, mowing and taking care of some of our abandoned properties that we're still trying to. It'd be nice to sell them, but you need to be able to see the building too. So we're trying to clear those out a little bit and doing a better job of marketing those. Our administration center has moved to Westside High School, Leadership Academy. We now, as of last week, have everyone together. We're still working out the kinks of, it's kind of like a new house. Everybody moves into their space and you kind of figure out how the furniture works, and we're moving some things around, doing some tweaking, but our goal there is efficiency. So departments are across from each other or very close by, so there's not a gap in sending the paperwork to the other end of the building or to another building within the city. So we're trying to improve that efficiency as well. And with Ms. Foster, our our office for the face liaisons is there, and we're also expanding that to occupy a room that will be a parent room, where parents can come in that may need some assistance, whether it's school uniform for their child and it's kind of tight right now, or just some general needs of families and kids. So again, that's Ms. Foster's idea, and we're really proud of that. So we're in the process of putting that together. Our food service program this year is really taking on a new perspective. We're looking at backpack program for kids to take food service or food items home for the weekend. I met with food service director yesterday. We met with the Purdue Extension person to get that up and going as soon as we can. Our target date, looking for October 1 to get that program rolling. So we all know that when children go home on the weekend, sometimes there's no food. So we need to help them out there. Transportation, we have a new transportation director this year. We are, he's learning the ropes, he's learning, we've got some experienced folks in the department there that are working with him. Our goal there is efficiency, looking at our stops, reducing our expense and transportation costs, which is our focus all the way around, looking at our finances. So that's what I have this morning. Any questions from any of the board members? We're glad to field those. Really exciting time to be there. It's fun. It's fun.
It's not a question, just a comment. I'm reading all of this.
Mm-hmm.
I love all the positive terms, intermediary, student workers, buffet helping out. It's just, the message is just such a positive one from what it was months ago. And the T-shirts, little things like that are just such a positive message, and you guys should all be applauded for that. It really is cleaning up the school. You can just sense that pride coming back, and it's great to see.
Well, thank you. And I have great people I work with. Chelsea and the folks, they're tremendous. But the sense of pride that we're trying to instill, the building might be old, but it can look nice. The floors need to be buffed and waxed, so when a child walks in a building, they're proud of where they are. It's a safe zone, if you will. We've painted insides. Purdue there at Beverage School has painted primary colors. The walls are orange and blue. They've got greens all over. Another big project that we're working on is playgrounds. We need to figure out how to give our children playgrounds and improve what we have. We've made some repairs, simple things, swings and chains and things at schools that everyone else has. And we're looking at how we can do that. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'll share that.
Dr. Marigues,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman, if I may, you made a quick reference to uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
What buildings do you have your students wearing?
Everybody, there's an elementary, middle school, high school model, and sometimes our parents struggle. We have some great providers in the community, but everyone wears uniforms. And what we've learned this year, it's been very interesting. Some parents have said, I can't bring my child to school yet because I don't have the uniform shirt. I got to wait until whenever. We'll bring them anyhow.
Yeah.
We need to give parents that window, that time, and if it's still a struggle, how can we help? We're focusing really hard on customer service all across the board, whether it's children, parents, but it's different colors, so these are the elementary kids, these are the middle school kids.
And by school as well?
No, I think, all the elementaries are one color. Yeah, all the elementaries are one color, all the middle schools one color, and then high school.
And about your playgrounds, I'm trying to connect that to maybe corporate sponsors. Are you? And I know you've talked about this in the past. Are you looking at that angle?
We are. We're looking at corporate. We're looking at community sponsors. We have a playground manufacturer provider in the community who has said that they'll provide the equipment to us at cost if we can work on the other end to help cover those costs. And that's something we're working on. At Beverage School, for example, we've made swing repairs. We have an area behind the school that we're going to clean clean, clear it down, black, seal coat it, and paint stencils, hopscotch, foursquare, things that kids like to do. So we're working on that as well. So sometimes it's simple things, like that, just a swinger field. The kids were just excited when I was over there. They, oh my gosh, the swings are fixed, and we'll play, and they're running. So that's what it's all about.
When you talk about cost, what sort of dollar amount are you talking about? If you get, the materials at cost, how much would it cost the school to?
It's been a while since I've seen one estimate that was in the $70,000-$80,000 range. There are a lot of ADA requirements and safety requirements for kids with surfaces, and so we would need to start from the bottom all the way up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, what great opportunities are you pursuing? I know that sometimes with playground equipment, there's grants out there that help with that.
The first one that comes to mind is we have a relationship with someone has a relationship with NIPSCO who has helped fund other. We also have our foundation. We have other community folks that are. We're open to anything, any grant opportunity. So if you have any, please, I'll take it. We're not bashful to call.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Any other questions for Dr. Marcus?
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. This time I'll turn it over to Chelsea and Ms. Foster.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be back. I couldn't help but to reflect on the very first time I was in this room about 3 months ago, and fast forwarding to where we are today. And I have to say that we have really hit the ground running, and I'm proud of our progress. And so I'm here to share a little bit about it from the public relations standpoint and the community outreach grassroots standpoint. So as I shared with you last month, we launched our campaign, Take Another Look at Gary Schools. And since then, we have implemented it. And in your PowerPoint presentation, there is first the campaign overview. And for those who are just tuning in and are new, I'll just share that the Take Another Look at Gary Schools enrollment campaign is in full implementation, and it continues to target parents and students, our stakeholders, the students that are currently enrolled in the Gary Schools, as well as those that we want to join the Gary Schools. We are encouraging these audiences to take note of our improvements and the goals for the upcoming school year, and essentially just catch the spirit. And we really feel like that has really transpired in our community. To help drive that message, we created a series of printed materials, which is on the next slide. We did a mailing, and at first, we strategized about who do we target? Do we just go with individuals who have children and we get that mailing list and just go for that? And then we thought better and said, no, because everyone can be an ambassador for the Gary Schools. So we send out a total of 44,134 postcards to all households in Gary and neighboring Lake Stations and Griffith schools who are experiencing some school closings. So therefore, the opportunity for us to garner more students was there. We have found that to be very, very beneficial because we're engaging individuals who at some point, sometimes, had not been engaged with our schools or just disconnected maybe because they don't have children in schools or grandchildren, but now we're inviting them as well because we're going to need all of the community to support us as we continue with our turnaround. We also implemented a billboard campaign, and as they started to pop up around the community again, the energy started to raise because it had aligned with the postcards. You get the postcard, and then you stop by the train and you look up and you see the same thing that you got in the mail, re-emphasizing, take another look at Gary Schools. As Dr. Pete alluded earlier in our Gary Crusader, we are starting with our advertising campaign, same messaging, but actually breaking down specific reasons why you should take another look at the Gary Schools, because parents have different desires, different things they're looking for. Some are looking for STEM, some are looking for arts, some are looking to just be closer, and the McCullough piece, being able to unite families to come together, and they have their girls, their boys, and they can now all go to school together. And then the pinnacle, the high point of our printed campaign were the yard signs. We just went gangbusters with yard signs, and we put them all over the city. And so no matter what side of town you were on, you had to be under a rock or blinders if you did not see, or you do not see our yard signs that say, take another look at Gary Schools. But again,
Sorry, just jump in. I definitely attest to that. I drove through Gary last week, and they are all over.
they're all over.
Good job.
Yes, thank you. And it's not so much about it being it's advertising. We also want to communicate a spirit of sincerity. We're doing this because we honestly need people to give us another look. Don't write us off. And so that's why we're sticking true to this campaign, coupled with the T-shirts and things that motivate the staff to say, we have to do this together. And with that, my favorite piece of the puzzle of the campaign is obviously our social media. So we have a presence on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, with Facebook, of course, being our first established social channel. When I first started a few months ago, it was my commitment to relaunch Facebook, and then we would gradually add on with Instagram and Twitter, and we have done that. And I'll just give you a few data points from the slide, that the last time we were here, we've experienced about a 300 increase of followers and a total of 776 followers since we relaunched the Facebook page in May, which is pretty good. That means we're getting about 5 to 6 followers a day. And I feel like the campaign of the other printed pieces are now driving people to both our website as well as our social media channels. And this just in, as of 10 o'clock last night, our Facebook reach just for this week, we have reached 20,000 people with an engagement of more than 17,000 people. So that means that not only are they coming to our pages, they're responding, they're asking questions, they're liking, they're sharing, and that's exactly what we want them to do. On the day before the first day of school, August 7th, we hosted an annual event, our back-to-school convocation. But this time, we extended to make it all the more interactive for our administrators, our staff, and we also invited the community to come and share that positive energy about the start of the school year. We had our guest speaker, Dr. Steve Perry, to come and deliver messaging around school enthusiasm and knowing that the students are our main focus, no matter what your role is in the district. On your PowerPoint slide, you'll see some of the photos. We also invited a lot of our community stakeholders to stand with us, stand by us, and let the community know that they too are supporting what we're trying to do with the district. So we had remarks from our mayor, the Honorable Karen Freeman Wilson. We had state representative, I'm sure all of you know your colleague, Dr. Vernon G. Smith. We had the head of our Urban League to come and offer prayer, since it was a convocation, and a host of others who are joined hand in hand, as you see, both in the paper and on the slides, united for the Gary Schools and for our children. And then the next day, I think the staff and our team, we were just like the students when we were excited about the first day of school. We couldn't wait to get out to the schools. And so we developed a full day schedule with a commitment to make it to every school and cover every school on the first day. And we shadowed Dr. Pete all day long, starting at McCullough, because we knew that it was going to be a little different with the boys coming in and having the clergy there to welcome them to this new environment. And then we went from school to school. You can go back on our Facebook page to see all of the photos, the videos, the parent interaction, the new teachers. It's all there for people to see what the new spirit and energy is within our building. So on that next slide, you'll see just a few of the photos from some of the schools. And my favorite is on the far right. That young man sitting on that letter B just melted my heart. And it reminds us constantly, this is why we're here. This is why we are doing these things for our children. Now that the enrollment campaign is in full swing, our attention turns to the finalization of the update of our website. If you've been following our website, we've been making gradual changes. We're taking down the things that are outdated. We're adding information about upcoming events. We've added the bell schedule. We've added just things that parents need to know. But now, once we've gotten settled into the school year, it's time to do the rehaul. So I encourage you to follow us as we continue to update our website to make it more user-friendly for our parents to find the information that they need, and also convey, again, that spirit of transparency that we're not hiding. Our phone numbers are there. Our emails are there. You can reach us on Facebook. You can inbox us, and we will respond. That's the difference. May not always give you the answer that you want, but we're going to respond, or if we don't have the answer on hand, we're going to work to get the answer and then reply back to those parents and other stakeholders who are interested in getting answers. Now, how did I do all of this? It wasn't an I thing, certainly not. It was a team effort, and so it's my honor to introduce to you our newest addition to the team, our information specialist who is now running Facebook Live. Hey, our Gary School followers. This is Crystal O'Brien, and she comes to us as a graduate of the Gary School, so she's come home to also help in the effort, much like our new team of administrators who are Gary graduates who are here to help and join the team to help people take another look at the Gary schools. And as Dr. Pete has mentioned on many occasions, and we all do, who could forget Ms. Tennille Foster over our FACE liaisons? She has so many community connections and parent love from the community that she's just a constant asset to our team. A little thing about Ms. Foster, she's not on Facebook, go figure. And so we have to report back to tell her what's going on. And recently, there was a feature on her and her department in the parent efforts, and she had the article framed and put into a plaque, or someone may have given it to her, I'm not sure. But we took her picture of her with her framed article, and it went viral. It's had almost close to 3,000 views, tons of comments, and she just saw it today with a teary-eyed reaction, and that's just what we wanted, because you have to give people their flowers while they live and let them know that what you're doing is making a difference. So thank you, Ms. Foster, for all of your compassion. And she, too, is a parent with children in the Gary schools, so she can sympathize and empathize. And last but not least, we have a video that we would like to share. During our convocation, somebody all the way down here in Indianapolis has caught the spirit of take a look at the Gary schools. And it's none other than our governor, the Honorable Governor Eric Holcomb. And at this time, Courtney, if you would play that video, I'll end with that.
Hi, I'm Governor Eric Holcomb.
Thank you, Governor. And with that, I ask that you please support us by following us. We're working now to build our Instagram and Twitter following with a special focus on our young people for Instagram. You're welcome to come as we begin our football season, our girls volleyball. Just come, wear your shirts, and take another look at the Gary schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Should get some report. We have a question, Ms. Whittington?
Senator.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your hard work. My only question is, you mentioned that there were some folks that were reaching out through social media. What were some of those questions that they were asking?
Well, with the start of school, the majority of the questions were around transportation.
Okay.
And so with the new configuration of schools, we had to reconfigure the bus scheduling. And so school started on Thursday, transparency, we got the schedule out on Monday, got a little close, but now, and then we had to look at it to make those tweaks. But people were appreciative that we were letting them know it's coming, and then when it finally released, we were able to post the PDFs, we posted the links, we would go live to give updates, and also, a lot of the engagement, Senator, were around the photos of the kids. That first day of school, we were just trending, because everybody knows what that feeling is like when it's the new backpack, the fresh uniform, who's my new teacher, and we captured all of that. But here's the thing, it doesn't stop with the first day of school. We are committed to staying in the schools, telling those stories, and keeping people engaged. So it is my hope that when you all come to Gary next month, that we'll have more stories to tell, more engagement, and a whole lot more followers. Right, Crystal? All right.
Ms. Wigton, I, along that theme is, and congratulations on the effort that you've made over the last couple of months, and availing yourself of all the different communication channels that are out there. I guess my question, going back to what you just said about how do you sustain that engagement? Do you have the sort of the staffing to monitor where you've got the likes and the forwarding the tweets or whatever the channel is, to figure out, here's where our community is most engaged, and to really then make some adjustments over time.
Absolutely.
Over the course of the school year, and then as you get ready for the future school year.
Yes, thank you for your question, and it's funny because Crystal and Ms. Foster and I rode down together, and it was a full makeshift strategy meeting talking about how we raise those numbers, taking a look at who's liking what the content is, and within each platform, there is an analytical system. And we're able to take a look at how many are men, how many are women, what are those age groups, where are the areas that we need to grow, and we've set some goals. Also, as far as keeping people engaged, we mustn't forget our traditional media. So you saw the article with the Crusader, but we're also getting some ink from the Chicago Tribune. We've done a piece with public radio on our financial gains, and I feel like the more information we share, the more engaged people become, because our social channels were dormant for a while. So it's this resurrection, and they're like, wait a minute, they're posting all day, well, not all day, but a lot. They're posting a lot more, and it's not just fluff. There's also numbers and information that say you need to be here, and going live more for those parents who work those different hours. Like now, this is our first time going live for DUAB, but maybe some people don't know how to go to the state website, but they have Facebook. So we're trying to get them at every point and then keep them engaged. And so it will be a combination of those grassroots efforts. We'll still be at those grocery stores. We'll still be at National Night Out. We'll still be at all the different community forums, forging the partnerships with our government relationships, our nonprofits. Dr. Pete just spoke at the Urban League board meeting the other day. We need everybody on deck and all hands on deck to ensure that this is not just a back-to-school type thing. This is a year-round, all-in deal.
Thank you so much. Any other questions for Ms. Whitty? Thank you very much. Mr. Parrish.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Eric Parrish with NGT. I'm taking some notes throughout the meeting, and I underlined and put in bold, next time, do not follow Chelsea.
Go first.
Yeah, I'm going first next time. So, hard transition to some financial and fiscal matters, but there is a connection, and in all seriousness, Chelsea's comments reminds me the comments I made the first day I was in Gary. It was August 1st, 2017, so just over 2 years ago. And in standing in front of a group of people, I said, no organization, including Gary Community Schools, can cut its way to prosperity. And I've said that dozens of times since. We just cannot cut our way out of the fiscal situation that we're in. We have to grow our way out. And so the comments we just heard from Chelsea and her team are manifesting itself into that strategy, that the path forward is to grow. And so I commend Chelsea and Crystal and Daniil for the work they do. It's amazing. So with that, there's a couple things on our agenda today. The first thing is the viable deficit reduction plan update. I'll go through what's in your packet. I want to give you the information you want and you need, so I have some prepared comments around that what's in your packet, but really I want to answer your questions and give you that information. This is the third update from the original submission, and what I've included in the packet is just the executive summary. We did submit the entire report. It's up to several hundred pages now. Every time we do an update, which is every 6 months, we add to that report, and so it's cumulative. But today we just put the executive summary in there, and I'll be happy to answer any questions in the detail that's not included. As an overview, where we're at from where we were. August 1st, 2017, 2 years ago, the deficit was $22 million. The corporation was spending $22 million more per year than it was taking in. The gap was being filled with loans from the state. As of July, or June 30th of 2019, the deficit's $11 million. It's probably a little bit less than that. We're doing that on a budget basis, so we're working on the budget now. I suspect that'll come down between now and the end of the calendar year, but as of June 30th, we're reporting that. So half. But I've said this before in front of this group, we're not celebrating a deficit of $11 million, but we are celebrating we're on the right path. The trajectory is going in the right direction, and the deficit plan is working. August 1st of 2017, the debt, the accumulated long-term debt, short-term and long-term borrowings was about $104 million. As of June 30th, 2019, down to just around 90. A big gap, reduction in short-term especially, but we've maintained, even though we had to borrow between August 1st, 17 and June 30th of 19, we did have to borrow, but we've been making payments on our debt. We never missed a payment, and we've paid down a considerable amount of that debt. So even though we did borrow along the way, we've kept current and we've stayed just about where we started. So that's progress as well. Going into the deficit reduction plan itself, we have 31 initiatives, 28 current, meaning either have started or will start within the next few months, and then 3 that are sometime in the future. The first graph there is a pie chart and just says how many have started and how many will start in the future. And it's just a matter of what is the initiative, what's the action that will be taken as far as when those will start. It'd be awesome if they could all start at the same time, but just some of them are staged or some of them just due to timing will take place in the future. The next graph, a bar chart, just shows you by quarter when those initiatives are scheduled to start or have started. The next couple of pages is a chart, a table by initiative that just says where we thought we would be when we submitted the original deficit reduction plan. That was January of 18 versus where we're at June 30th of 19. So a comparison. And we update that chart every time. So you can see some are right on, some are ahead, some are behind. We'll talk about those that are behind here in just a moment. The next several pages, we start with the green bar charts and a timeline from 2018 to 2024. This set of charts builds, it's cumulative, they're layered on top of each other. The first chart with just the green bars show those are initiatives, the sum of the initiatives, the cumulative amount of initiatives that are adding revenue. Those are our growth initiatives.
Those are black and white.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right, the very first one. So on page 13 of your packet, yep, and it's labeled revenue enhancement. So hopefully that will help. Sorry about that. That just shows the cumulative impact of initiatives that will generate revenue for the corporation. Page 14 in the packet, now there's 2 bar charts side by side. If you did have color, one's green, one's red. We just added to the chart. Each one of these charts will add a component. The component we're adding here is cost reduction. So some initiatives will reduce costs. So we have some that increase revenue. We have some that reduce our costs. Third chart down, which is on page 15 of your packet, those are very dark black charts going down. So underneath the 0 line there, those are investments that may be required to realize one of the initiatives. An example would be if we want to realize energy savings in our buildings, we'll have to invest in some energy savings components, devices, even some labor. So there'll be cost incurred to generate savings in the future. Next graph down on page 16 adds a dotted line across the top. That is the net benefit of the sum of revenue enhancement or cost reduction minus investment or costs that we have to incur to realize that initiative. Just the cumulative impact. The next chart down, I think, is very important. On page 17, it's the cumulative impact, the net benefit of the dotted line, and then a very solid horizontal line laid across. That is our deficit as of June 30th of 2019. So that's the target. We have to get above that line, and you can see the dotted line, the net cumulative benefit does, starting in 2020. And that is the key to the deficit reduction plan. As we follow the plan and the plan unfolds, once we cross over and go above that solid horizontal line, we will be in the good, and eventually, as the plan unfolds, we will have that balanced budget that we all aspire to have. And then the final chart is just another solid line going at a diagonal slope from lower left to upper right. That is the cumulative benefit over the timeline of all the initiatives, revenue enhancement, cost reduction, less whatever investments need to be made. So over the timeline of those 7 years, you can see $125 million of deficit reduction. Those charts have been in each of the deficit reduction plans, but we update them every 6 months. The next chart, really call your attention to, spend just a moment on. It's labeled net fiscal impact. It's on page 19 of your packet, 13 of the executive summary. That is the diagonal line that starts at the bottom left and goes to the upper right, and it sums to $125 million. So in January of 19 and even July of 18, June 30th of 18, when we presented the deficit reduction plan updates, that number was about $150 million of cumulative benefit. We stayed steady over those updates from the initial plan. This is the first time we've dropped from the sum of all of those initiatives, and we've dropped about $25 million. That drop is due primarily to 3 initiatives, and I'll expand on those. Of the $26 million drop, $25 million comes from those 3. The first initiative that is changed is to suspend common school loan repayments. That was included in the legislation of the 567, the takeover legislation, that's an option the emergency management team had, is to come to the board and request suspension of loan repayments. We've taken out $40+ million of common school loans over a long period of time. We're making payments on those loans of about $500,000 a month. So we continue to make those payments. The math wasn't correct in the original deficit reduction plan. It was too simplistic. We simply took suspension of those loans, $500,000 a month, 12 months a year, that's $6 million. We suspend for 3 years, use that cash flow to make investments and invest in Gary Community Schools. That's $18 million over those 3 years. It's not that simple, as we've learned. And how it gets complex, as our friends at DLGF explained to us, is that if we don't make those loan payments, then our property tax revenue associated with debt service would also be lowered. And so there's some, it's not even algebra, it's calculus that we need to calculate to go through and figure out those out years. We've worked with some DLGF staff, we've worked with our CFO, we've worked with some MGT folks. We each came up with a different answer. So we're to the point where we're working through and trying to come to the same answer of what that will look like. We'll still undertake the initiative to suspend some common school loan repayments for a period of time, but it won't be that simple math of just the payment over every month times that number of months. So I've reduced significantly in the deficit reduction plan what that savings would be. It might bump back up as we go through and come to a final resolution, but for now I took a conservative approach and reduced it the maximum amount. The second item in that was the local referendum. That has been an initiative all along. Our thought was what has changed is when we might go for a referendum. We've done some research, some surveys. We've come to the conclusion that the success of a referendum is really tied to turnout. No surprise there. I think all referendums have that. And so we are looking at a referendum, and it's all under review right now. Nothing's been decided, but in 2020, when there's a primary in May and a general in November, those two elections would have a significantly higher turnout than, say, in November of 19 when it's an off year. So in the original deficit reduction plan, we had the referendum prior to 2020, and so we just pushed back when that would happen. Same amount, over the same time frame, just starting later.
I have a question on that. The information on the referendum, will that be on the website for the schools to inform parents, or is that?
All of the above.
Okay.
Any referendum requires a significant amount of information to be disseminated in the community, what it is, why it is, most importantly, what it means to an individual, what the impact would be, and how maybe most importantly, how the money would be used. All of those things have to be communicated. And so that once a decision is made to move forward, then that process would start. And it's a fairly common process. It's not difficult to lay that out. It's difficult to execute as in any community. Yes. And then the third reason for the drop is an initiative, acquire an online program. We're still working through that. We have an online program. An online program is a blended learning program where students take classes online but also attend in person. Not a pure online program. We have students enrolled in that last year. We have students enrolled in that program this year, just not near the number we originally anticipated back in early 2018. Now, over time, we might build back up to that number, but that is a program that you really want to do right. Don't want to jump in and just take off on that without really vetting it and making sure learning is happening, and that's why we chose blended over pure online. And so we'll get there. We're there. We just don't have the number that we originally speculated that we would have. So those three represent almost all of the difference in the original deficit reduction plan, the prior updates, and this update. Don't want to minimize that, but there is a story behind each of those. And we're still on, even with that drop, we're still well ahead of the amount needed to reach that fiscal sustainability. The next chart is a big box with little boxes inside of it. That is, each initiative is represented by one of the boxes. The bigger the box, the bigger the initiative. And so it just gives you a sense of there's a handful of initiatives that really matter a lot, and then some that matter somewhat, and then some that are really small. So the scale. And those have changed in order, rank order, since the original, but the same 7 or 8 have stayed the same. So just the order of those 7 or 8 has changed slightly, but the 7 or 8 has not changed in order of magnitude.
Senator Brown?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
With respect to the initiative that Pay for Success, that has not been started, is that right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. Pay for Success or social impact bonds, use those terms interchangeably. We've had conversations. Let me back up. Social impact bonds are a scenario where investors will invest in a social situation that derives an outcome that benefits the entire community. And so Gary Community Schools would qualify for that. We have some folks interested in putting a deal like that together. It's really a package where you go out and find investors, create a need and identify that and connect the two together. Initially, we waited to have that conversation until we were in a more stable position, that we had a better story to tell. And if we have that story to tell now, I mentioned earlier, some of the initiatives not started due to staging and phasing. We want to put through several more initiatives or get those initiatives that we've started. We want to get further along and show success before we go to a market and try to put a deal together for social impact bonds.
Because that is a significant.
Absolutely. It's $5 million a year, and that may be low in what an group of investors would bring.
So what's your best guess on when you will be?
This time next year.
Okay. And then another question about the online program, the blended program we're talking about, what is the thinking behind that? Who is that targeted?
Yeah, students that may have dropped out, we have a credit recovery, so that's a pure dropout, but students who are at risk, maybe that's a better way to say it.
So they haven't dropped out, but they're at risk.
Right, right. Or they have, but they haven't been out so long that they need a credit recovery type of a program. There's a time frame where you can capture a student before it goes too far, where it's just, now you're in pure credit recovery.
And so what's the number that you're looking at? You thought you would
Yeah, we thought it would be in the hundreds initially, because we could house the program in Gary, but it could be kids from all over the state. We pared that down significantly. So we're in the dozens now. Ideally, it's just going to be students in Lake County, because initially it was purely online, so it theoretically can be anywhere. With a blended program, they have to come to school 1 or 2 days a week and take classes in person. And so now it's Lake County.
So is the cost of the blending, is it a wash now with only buses, or?
The way the contract is structured, we still generate positive cash flow no matter how many students we get. With the vendor who provides that service, they take the majority of the revenue per student that's given to Gary Community Schools, and then we keep a small portion of it. So it's not scaled.
So if that's the case then, and it's blended, so then Gary Community Schools is not receiving the dollar value, if you will, for the student in the seat when they are in the building as opposed to online?
We do receive it, but then we pay the vendor to provide that service.
But that's what I mean, but they're not, are they providing the service when the student enters the classroom?
Yes.
The building
Yeah,
itself?
yeah, it's think of a turnkey. So that it's they provide all, whether it's online or instruction. We provide the space, but they provide the instruction.
So they're providing instruction online even when the child enters. They're not being instructed by a teacher in the class as other Gary students.
A traditional Gary student would attend class 5 days a week. A blended student would be online 3 days a week and then in class 2 days a week.
But when they're in class, it is the virtual online student.
Correct.
That is running the program,
Correct.
not the Gary teacher.
Right. That's correct.
And do you use the online programs for curriculum or teachers for your traditional students?
No,
Not at all.
no. Now, one of the tenets of the agreement was the vendor's instruction has to align to state standards and our curriculum maps, so they have to be synced together.
Right.
But it's their program.
But have you had issues, not only with, maybe getting the weeds, but have you had issues with finding curriculum instructors that you might have been able to find that? Sometimes every school district has a problem finding, for example, a PE teacher, a physics teacher, or whatever it is, right?
Right.
So have you had those issues and have you had to look elsewhere, or you don't have those issues?
With the online instruction?
No, with your I'm going to call them traditional.
Oh, yeah, I think like every school corporation, we have those challenges of finding hard to place teachers, and there's just fewer teachers in the pipeline
Right.
to begin with.
But you do not use an online source for that?
To recruit? Or,
To supplement or to invite, since you can't find that physical teacher to come into the building.
we haven't had, in my, what
I can address that. We in the past, we've had a very, very difficult time recruiting and capturing teachers in there. This year, I'm glad to say, let me back up. Last year, I believe there were 42 vacancies that were hard to fill. This year, we're down around 11 or 12, which is a significant drop. Part of that is because we've established the Purdue Partnership Program, where we've got those students coming through. We're trying to create that pipeline. Still, some of our hard to fills in the math and sciences are still. I know there's at least one calculus teacher out there that we're still trying to locate, but we are recruiting. But it's very competitive. Some of the other districts around us are offering signing bonuses, if you will, that are quite lucrative, and teachers they're pulling some teachers away. So it's a competitive market, but we are in much better shape. We're down around maybe 11 or 12 full positions that are hard to fill.
Your student, probably the student ratio is significantly lower. Is it lower? that an attraction to teachers?
Our student-teacher ratio is low?
No, yes.
It is, and that's one of the reasons we're having a more difficult time is we have made a real effort to reduce our class size. So we are looking for a lot of teachers, you know.
You're below the national average.
Yes, ma'am. Our elementaries, we try to, that, if we hit 30, that's a real large class size. We're trying to shoot for 20 to 25 range, as optimal, so, that does require more staff. But we're working hard and we're creating those partnerships and we have 30 less vacancies than we did, previous year, which is huge in our eyes.
No, that's impressive. But if you don't fill, for example, a couple of teacher positions, what do you do then?
Well, what we've done is we've been able to find long-term subs who may have background in the industry that are in transition to teaching programs at local universities. We look for retired teachers that may want to come out of retirement, supplement their incomes.
Not an online.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. The last piece on the executive summary from the deficit reduction plan is just a note on the multiple paths to fiscal solvency, just a couple of paragraphs on page 22 that lay this out from the very beginning. And I use the analogy of the race for the presidency and the electoral college, that you can win Florida and lose Ohio and still win the presidency. So not every one of these initiatives has to hit exactly how it was designed to still reach our goal of fiscal sustainability. Now, some are just by that, the big box with the little boxes in it, that chart. There's some that are obviously more important than others, and we've got to get those. But even then, there's still different ways to get to where we all want to be. So with that,
Mr. Parrish,
yeah.
on that note, will those changes on the initiatives, right? So you're going to have some that will be great successes, there are others that won't achieve what were originally intended. Will those in your 6-month update then be reflected in those red bars? If we were anticipating a certain cost reduction every year, is that going to be sort of real time of what was accomplished that year, but then also maybe we didn't sustain the energy savings that we thought we were going to over time?
Right.
And so that would be reflective of those?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we recast those charts, the math, and then the math turns into the charts. We recast that every 6 months. Absolutely. Other questions? All right, so we will revisit this January of 20, based on an update number 4 through December 31st of this year. The next item in the packet is the $400,000 towards accrued liabilities. This was an agreement with DUAB to pay down the accrued liability. And this really does connect to the deficit reduction plan in that August of 17, short-term debt, accounts payable mostly, was $16.5 million. Now, $8.5 million of that was the IRS obligation. For those of you who weren't here then, Gary Community Schools owed $8.5 million to the IRS for not paying payroll taxes that were withheld from employees, not remitting those, and then penalties and interest. And then $8 million in what you typically just call accounts payable. There were approximately 20 judgments against the corporation at that time for lack of payment, and a number that were pending. And so from then to now, as we had in the deficit reduction plan, the IRS obligation is completely cleared. That freed up, eliminating the liens on the properties that allow us to market and sell some of those. And our accounts payable is down to under $2 million, about 1.6, and that's the normal monthly business cycle. Those 20 or so settlements and judgments have been paid off, have been finalized. We do have two or three exceptions. Those are relatively small, and those by the end of this calendar year will be resolved as well. So that was a big part of us working through that debt, that short-term debt, but also becoming a business partner back in the community. We talked about building trust and momentum and being a credible part of the community. And at that time, it was hard to find a vendor who was willing to work with us because we probably had the money, or had a credit history that would say we're not going to pay. And today, we have good relationships with vendors. We can issue a purchase order, we can buy on credit, and we're not the risk that we once were. So that was the goal, is to get to that point, is to not only pay down the liabilities, but to get to a point where we are a viable business partner in the community and a normal business operator.
I don't want to revisit the past, because it's all about the future in Gary schools, but on those outstanding liabilities that we've reduced down to just the normal sort of run rate of $2 million, were those contractual obligations, or were they like operating expenses, utility bills, or?
All the above.
Okay.
We had a huge judgment with NIPSCO, utility provider, the insurance, health insurance provider. Yeah, all the above. So what I did, the goal was to have $400,000 of savings. I took out of the deficit reduction plan just 4 of those 31 initiatives, 28 that had started, 3 in the future, just 4 to be representative. And I could have chosen a number of them. I probably no rhyme or reason to take these 4, but just to say, I think this represents a broad swath of what we're doing, different ways to get to where we all want to be. Real quickly, I'll go through those. Labor cost controls. Labor in any public sector organization is the largest expenditure, largest cost item. This doesn't mean reduction in force or attrition. This is just monitoring payroll for costs above base pay, overtime, supplemental pay, step pay, those costs that are appropriate, but can also run without oversight in excess. And so by putting some controls and processes and policies in place, we've been able to reduce overtime and supplemental and step pay, those things that could increase our salaries and compensation, reduce those in an appropriate way. And that generated savings of just under $300,000. The next was reduce employee health insurance. Spoke about that. We had a significant debt with our health insurance provider. And so we entered a negotiation with them that they would forgive $1 million of the $3 million we owed them if we would enter an agreement to provide services for 2 years. So we essentially gave them 2 years of our business and make payments over time on the $2 million we owed, and they would forgive $1 million. Then we did. We worked through that. And as of this year, we're in a position where we're out from under that agreement. We are in the market negotiating with all providers to get the best, not just fiscal deal, but the best insurance for our employees. It could be the current provider, but we have that opportunity now, as well as the cost savings. Compete custodian services is the third one. We did take a very hard look at our custodian services when we got there. Half those services were being provided by a vendor already, and half were being provided by our staff. So we did an analysis. What makes the most sense? It made the most sense to have all those services provided by an outside vendor. This occurred about this time last year. We made that transition to 100% outside vendor. It took almost the rest of 2018 to work through the termination pay, sick leave, payouts, and that type of thing to reach positive cash flow. But throughout this year, we have generated positive cash flow, and we'll do so in the future. And then school consolidation, we did close Ward Emerson, hard decision to make, but based on enrollment and the condition of the building, we also closed Watson, which is referenced in here, very beginning, August of 17. So those 2 school closures, and now we've closed what was the Lincoln Elementary. It was our administration building. Process of closing that will still be an active building. We just won't have people in it. We'll have records and whatnot. The cost savings through utilities and administration in those buildings significant. There's cost savings we generate from that. So those are 4 examples that we pulled. And then I pulled 3 that aren't in the deficit reduction plan just because of the timing of when they happened. One, we talked about the IRS settlement, which leads to number 2 is property and surplus sales. We have sold 2 abandoned school properties. We have 2 more we'll have bids and offers for that we're working through that process. Maybe 1 more after that. They're all for sale. If anybody's interested, I'd be happy to buy 1, get 9 free is what I'm telling folks. But we have realized positive cash flow through that. And then when we renegotiated the transportation contract, we had significant savings from prior years, and also the company agreed for a small give back. So under the category, every little bit helps. So, any questions?
That was renegotiated, you're using the same provider?
We are.
Okay.
We are. And there's another example of lack of payment led to a certain level of cost, where current payment and viability led to another level. And as we go further, and Dr. Marikas mentioned, we now have a transportation director with experience working with that independent provider. I fully expect additional savings will be realized just through the oversight and management internally.
Do you recall if any of the in-house custodial staff were hired by the incoming provider?
Many were. And that was one of, we didn't mandate that, but we highly encouraged that. And I think it's been a good relationship.
Any other questions for Mr. Parrish?
I'll defer over.
Okay. So this is an action item. This is a subject, part of the contract, where we consider the performance incentive tied to the pay down of accrued liabilities. And let me ask you if there are any more questions for Mr. Parrish before we entertain any motions regarding the item. Any additional questions?
I just have a question. I want to make sure, did you say that your current health insurance contract is out for bid?
Yes. We haven't formally released an RFP. The contract with the current provider ends at the end of this calendar year. And so we have retained a health insurance broker who will assist with that. We're also looking at the trusts in northern Indiana as a way to figure out which way is best. So I want to be clear, we haven't issued an RFP, but we do have the opportunity of working through a broker to solicit bids through all the carriers.
And how many people are you looking to cover?
Yeah, just under 700, 600.
What is the current cost that employees pay?
It's, I want to say, for a single policy, and it's not a rich policy, it's about $700. Sure.
For the employee themselves?
Yes.
That individual is $9.
Times 26, so.
90? Yes, 90%, 180 a month.
I just think this might be an opportunity, just the benefits itself could be a potential recruiting tool for
Absolutely.
folks to come into the district.
Absolutely.
I think that's important.
Yeah, I fully expect that because of the fiscal condition we're in and the record we can present, and plus I'm getting a little over my head in health insurance talk, but the experience that we've had with our employees, costs will come down and coverage will go up. It's going to be a win-win.
So along the line of the premium they pay, what's the for a single person? I think it's like 6,000. And then what is the corporation's cost for a single female?
I don't want to mistake.
We can- Yeah, we can do that. I believe, go back, so that contract did come to DUAB for approval, but that would have been late 2017, I believe. It was a 2-year contract.
Yeah.
So So it's been a while, but I will look back also to our documents to see what we have in terms of what that contract is.
I just don't want to tell you the wrong thing.
No, that's fine. Are your employees aware of what the value is in terms of what the corporation is? I know
Yes.
some school corporations make sure that the employees have that information.
We do. Our employees, Gary Community School employees haven't had a salary increase in over 10 years. And so the cost of healthcare has gone up, and the corporation has participated in that increase, not fully. So when we talk about compensation, it's not just base pay, we do point out the total package.
Yeah, so they may not have received the salary, but they've received the benefit by you paying them over the health.
Right.
And they are aware of that.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll look
Again,
look at it.
I'll ask Courtney to work with you and get a summary out to the
Yeah,
board.
it shouldn't be quick.
Get back to our action item. And again, I'll just ask one final time. Any additional questions for Mr. Parrish, Senator Ford?
Yeah, so you mentioned the action and about incentives, so can we just talk specifically about what that means, what action are we?
Okay.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
summary. Either board, so.
So when this contract was negotiated with Gary Schools Recovery, there is a certain level of base pay that they receive on a monthly basis. But in addition, both DUAB and Gary Schools Recovery felt it was important to also have performance incentives tied to their work. So there, for each of the 3 contract years, which we actually just entered year 3 of the contract at the start of August, for each of those years, there were 4 to 5 performance incentives. And so they're all kind of timed out based on when that data would actually be available. So this particular performance incentive really piggybacks off of one from the first year. The first year performance incentive was preparing a viable deficit reduction plan. Now here for the year 2 incentive, this is showing that during year 2, they made progress on the accrued liability following what they had proposed in that viable deficit reduction plan. So that's really what we're looking to determine today. The incentive itself is $100,000 for meeting that $400,000 threshold. Had they come in lower than the $400,000, it would have allowed for a prorating of that $100,000.
So go ahead.
I guess my question is, so is the incentive going to the teachers and the staff of the district?
This incentive goes to Gary Schools Recovery, the emergency management company.
To the company? I guess my question or my concern there is, that money, shouldn't we be investing that back into the school corporation, not necessarily to the company?
I think the thought process there was, as we engaged Gary Schools Recovery to do that emergency management, we wanted to ensure we had ways to hold their feet to the fire in a sense, and ensuring that they are doing what they need to do to ultimately turn Gary Schools around and provide for a sustainable future. And so that's why we have a number of different incentives, like I said, many that are tied to finance, some that are tied to enrollment and academics as well, knowing that things like enrollment growth will help to then drive additional revenue, which then allows Gary Schools to be sustainable moving forward.
Thank you. Along that line, did you say you're just starting the 3rd year, so is it just a 3-year contract? And these incentives were built into the contract when they signed the compression agreement, right? So these are incentives that they've met contractually, and now we are here to formally and officially vote that they should receive the incentives which are within the contract. And one more question with respect to that. What happens at the end of the 3-year contract?
That is a discussion that we've actually started to have with Gary Schools Recovery, as well as just internally, trying to sort out what that next step will be. The contract does expire July 31st of next year, so that is something that we'll be working on over the next.
And is that a decision that is a legislative decision, is that a decision that this board needs to make, or is this contract, or a contract with a manager, if you will, is that something that can be put out the document without any further, any type of executive action?
Right. It would be something that would have to come back to the board for any action. With the way that the statute is, Gary School Corporation is currently determined to be a distressed political subdivision. Because of that, DUAB is required to have an emergency manager there. So it would be on DUAB to identify who that emergency manager would be and then contract with them. So it will come back to the board throughout that process. In terms of what that next step may be, yes, it could be an RFP if that's the way the board would like to go in terms of seeing, what our options are. I think we could also work with Gary Schools Recovery if we feel like they're doing a good job and we want to keep them around. Those are all conversations we'll be having.
And those are options.
Correct.
Thank you.
One final question. We are, as the state, paying money to the folks for the takeover, is that correct?
Emergency management.
Excuse me.
Any other questions? What's the pleasure of the board regarding the incentive payment of $100,000 to Gary Recovery LLC? Okay, so you're making a motion
Yeah,
to approve,
I think you
making a motion to approve?
Right.
Okay. Is there,
Second.
there's a motion there?
So you actually serve as an advisor.
Advisory?
So I don't.
No vote.
I'll withdraw my second. Thank you for letting me know.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any final questions? Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Anything else? Yes, sir.
As an advisor, can we still kind of, as a then, make comments to that?
As an advisor, you're free to speak your mind.
Yeah, I don't want to take away from the good work that these folks are doing back in the community, but I do feel though as a state, we are paying them to do a job, and it sounds like they are doing a wonderful job, but I just think the additional money should go back into the school corporation and helping with other efforts. So that would be my, I guess, my consent to the recent.
Okay. Well, I guess I mean, they still receive tuition support, from the state of Indiana. And so, part of this charge is to determine the right course for fiscal responsibility and sustainability. And I think that's the primary course in addition to all of the community involvement that they're doing. So I think it is sort of looking at the big picture as well, but I don't want this for us to not remember that there is financial aid that's going from the state of Indiana to Gary Community Schools in the form of tuition support and other line items.
So I'm going to have to go find something. I just want to say that I'm extremely appreciative, not just what the emergency managers have done, but also what the community has done. I think it's impressive. It's like an all hands on deck because I have to say it was very depressing reading all of these materials and how far down the hole, not just the Gary school system, but the Gary community obviously was with enrollment, deplorable school buildings and deficits that are absolutely staggering. $100 million for a community of any size in the state of Indiana is overwhelming. And to your all point, I mean, you are running ahead of the treadmill, so to speak, to catch up. And I congratulate you because I think I would throw my hands up and say, I don't know if this is even possible. And it's still a huge hole, but now you turn the corner and there's light up there, you just figure out how to get out of it. But that's impressive, but there's a long way to go. And, I think you've all done a wonderful job, and I'm sure the Gary community is very appreciative because we all know how important it is to have great education.
there any new business to come before the board? Dr. Maricas?
If I may, Ms. Foster. On a closing note, she has just a couple of things that she would like to share with the board. First of all, these are one of a kind, these are unique face liaison teachers that are provided to the parents. So I'd like to give Ms. Foster just a couple of minutes. If I may.
Sure.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
So first, I wanted to just say thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the support. Courtney has no idea. She actually surprised me and came to our back to school fest, and she wasn't shy to dig right in and serve the kids and hug, and her and Doc had a little hot dog competition going on. So as we talked about registration and we talked about Gary Proud, Gary Strong, but I just wanted to say that this is a shirt that we created for our parents, that during registration, that we wanted to say thank you to them for taking another look, for giving us a second chance, in spite of what people say, in spite of the difficulties, in spite of the naysayers, and say, oh, you're not gonna come back out of it. But for those parents that said, I'm gonna roll up my sleeves, and I'm gonna jump in with you with the fight. This is what we want to say thank you to them. So as they came in to register, this is what, as you see, I'm wearing mine, as an example, because I am a proud parent. Not only a proud parent, but a proud product of the Gary Community School Corporation. So I started off with my daughter volunteering, and somebody saw something in me to say, hey, you need to be a part of this thing. So even though I've been here with all the new changes and all the ups and downs, I'm still gonna stay standing. One of our former administrators used to have a saying, say good, better, best. I'll never let it rest. I said, my good is my better, and my better is my best. And Gary Community School Corporation is bringing back the best. So thank you again for this opportunity.
Thank you.
I thank Dr. Pete. So watch out for us. We got more to come.
Yes, thank you. Your enthusiasm is infectious, and I'm sure it is up in Gary as well. So if there's no other new business, meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sure.